Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Barry Kumo Ado. In the headlines, reps dismiss petition against electricity management company. Senate refused accusing Nigerian Education Loan Fund of missing 210 trillion naira. Kiev received political signals for U.S. aid resumption, Zelensky says. And Chelsea prepare for Paris Saint-Germain test in CWC final. Details shortly.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on eVibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
So I should try harder, so...
Okay, I don't know that one.
Outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that. That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hub's on eVibes, where the vibes never stop. Only on Signature TV.
The House of Representatives Subcommittee on the Protection of Critical National Assets on Thursday dismissed the corruption allegation against the Nigerian Electricity Liability Management Company by civil society group, the Association for Public Analysts, APPA. Association, through its president, Prince Wudokori, accused NELMCO of misappropriation of funds and shady operations, among sundry allegations. APA had also questioned the continued existence of NELMCO 12 years after its privatization. At a public hearing on Thursday, committee chairman Dabo Ismail confirmed that an investigation was launched and verified that NELCO remains legally backed by the Nigerian Electricity Act 2023, which mandates it to manage PHCN's remaining assets and liabilities. An allegation that NELCO spent 94 million naira on a 5-day retreat, Managing Director Mojoyoluwa Dekalu Thomas defended the expenditure, explaining it covered flights, accommodation, feeding, and logistics for 25 participants, including senior government officials. Committee reviewed the documents and deemed the spending justifiable and urged APA to submit any further credible findings, assuring fair consideration in the interest of Nigerians.
Approved to purchase office by herself. And they have given us the documents, all the approvals. So that's in brief explanation on that. So I think on the rent part and the permanent office for them, that is the outcome of our investigation on that. The only thing we can do as Parliament is to request for whether she have followed due process or not. And what is the due process? She cannot approve anything for herself. She have supervising ministry, the FEC is there, and she have given us the documents that gave her the go-ahead for them to purchase a permanent office. And that is what we're able to establish on this. Approve.
The House of Representatives has launched an investigation into alleged irregularities surrounding the disbursement of student loans by the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFund. A joint committee of the House, chaired by the Committee on Student Loans, Scholarships and Higher Education Financing, is leading the inquiry following a resolution passed in May. Concerns raised include claims of fund diversion, non-compliance with regulations, and unethical practices. The committee has given the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Ministers of Finance and Education, and other involved agencies a 48-hour deadline to submit their memoranda. Meanwhile, the National Orientation Agency, NOA, has also weighed in, condemning the alleged misconduct and describing it as sabotage against both citizens and government efforts to improve access to education.
This is a finance-related investigation. So therefore, figures are very, very important. And that's why when my colleague raised this issue of the finance officer, is Jameh, But before the finance officer, you know, it is your duty as the head of that agency to be able to also educate yourself, as everything happening in the finance is also within your purview. And if there are issues that we may likely must have to call the finance minister, and that means the public hearing is now been delayed by you. And therefore, Mr. Chairman, that is the way to go about it. Let him just provide some of this information, since he has the resolutions, and every other agency here representing its institution should also have this resolution, so that each institution will know the reasons why they are here.
Is guiding the disbursement of student loans to examine compliance within existing legal and ethical frameworks, to recommend actionable solutions to ensure that the student loan system fulfills its intended purpose transparently, fairly, and efficiently. Once again, I must commend the management of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund and Nigerian students for embracing this transformative journey of Mr. President's renewed hope agenda in the educational sector. During the period under review, NEL Fund has disbursed about 73 billion in loans as at 30th June 2025, with a total of 366,247 student beneficiaries across federal and state tertiary education institutions. Let it be known that this hearing is not a witch hunt, it's a fact-finding and truth-seeking mission. We are here to listen, to ask probing questions, and to hold accountable any individuals or institutions found.
During a technical session, the committee raised questions about the sudden disappearance of NEL Fund's Director of Finance and criticized the agency's failure to submit key documents to support its reported appropriations and expenditures.
Commission. So if I could just repeat that, 10 billion from appropriation, 50 billion from EFCC, 143 billion from TET Fund, which means that to date, the Nigerian education
is that the institutional fees, the fees for the student to learn, is paid directly by NEL Fund from our account at the Central Bank of Nigeria to the institution's account. If it's a federal institution, it will go to their TSA account in the central bank. If it's a state-owned institution, it will usually go to their commercial account. But we pay directly to the account of the institution on behalf of the 1,000 students, if you like, and the corresponding amount for that, for the 1,000 students of different courses, different...
This House cannot afford to allow the student loan initiative to be undermined by administrative inefficiencies, regulatory gaps, or deliberate abuse of process. We are particularly concerned by the report suggesting that certain institutions and stakeholders may have colluded to delay or conceal disbursements. The credibility of the program and the trust of the Nigerian people in public institutions are both at stake, and we cannot fold our hands and allow this to be swept under the carpet. This hearing is therefore structured to achieve specific objectives. First, to verify the authenticity of the reported allegations.
The Nigerian Senate has clarified that it never accused the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, of stealing 210 trillion naira, but insisted that the company must provide full accounting for the staggering figure reported in its financial records. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Public Accounts, Senator Aliyu Wadada, representing Nasarawa West, made a clarification on Thursday following the rescheduling of an investigative hearing due to the absence of an NNPCL Group Chief Executive Officer, Bayo Ojulari. The senator explained that the demand arose from discrepancies in the NNPCL's audited financial statements, particularly concerning unsubstantiated liabilities and vague asset claims. He noted that NNPCL's record showed accrued expenses of 3 to 5 trillion naira on the profits and loss account, yet the audited financial statement presented 103 trillion naira as liabilities figures. The Senate committee found to be inconsistent and unjustifiable.
To appreciate so that you don't find yourself unwittingly into a pit hole. Because this committee must be respected, and if you don't respect it, you will be worse for it. We came to the Senate to make Nigeria work and not to take excuses. Nobody is too big to listen. We are empowered by our constituents to protect Nigeria public interest, with particular reference to public funding. INPC has a history that is dirty, a history of embezzlement, a history of fraud, and manipulating the Nigerian people, and now you are reluctant to come and account for what has happened under your watch. So I think, Mr. Chairman, sir, that they just need to know we are not pleading. We do have options. They either take advantage of the window you have given, or the door will be shut and the right thing will be done.
Okay. First and foremost, there was never a period that this committee said NNPC stole 210 trillion. But this committee said, and it still stands by it, NNPC must account for 210 trillion. Correct. And reason being that you submitted through your audited financial statement an account that is not net off. An account that is not net off does not give the needed and required meaning anywhere.
Chairman Senate Committee on Public Accounts noted that a new date will be communicated for the next investigative hearing. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has announced the replacement of suspended Senator Natasha Akpotudua as chairman of the Senate Committee on Diaspora and Non-Governmental Organizations. Akpabio, during plenary on Thursday, announced Senator Aniek Bassi as the new chairman of the committee. As a result, Bassi replaces Natasha Akpotudua, whose leadership of the committee had been uncertain due to her suspension. In a minor reshuffle earlier in February, Natasha Akpotudua was removed as chairperson of the Senate Committee on Local Content and reassigned to the Diaspora and NGOs Committee. Although no formal explanation was provided for her replacement, it is thought that the move may not be unconnected to her suspension. Justice Binta Nyako of the Federal High Court had ordered Natasha's reinstatement, mandating her to tender an apology to the Senate for her conduct, but the Senate maintains it is yet to receive a certified true copy of the court's judgment.
Senate Committee on Diaspora and NGOs is distinguished Senator Aniek Bassi, and it will take effect from today. So we will make some changes to our vice chairmanship positions next week as a result of the fact that some of the senators have two vice chairmanship positions. In fact, I know of one who has 3. Maybe his name kept coming up while others do not have. So, leader of the Senate, please.
A former governor of Osun State and interim national secretary of the African Democratic Congress Coalition, Ogbeni Aregbesola, has expressed optimism that the party would defeat the ruling All Progressive Congress in the next general elections. Aregbesola, while addressing members of the party in Akure, the Ondo State capital, called on party members to work together to achieve success in the subsequent elections. The ex-minister for Interior stressed the need for party members to put aside their personal interests and differences and work towards a common goal of taking over power from the ruling APC. According to him, the ADC has garnered significant support from prominent members of opposition parties, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Senate President David Mark, and former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, among others who have thrown their weight behind the party as a coalition movement platform aimed at challenging President Bola Tinubu in the next election. The Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission has said there will be by-elections anywhere a ballot box is snatched during the conduct of a Saturday local government elections. The chairman of LASIEC, Justice Bola Okikiolu Ihige, said this on Thursday during a press briefing ahead of the poll. The LASIEC boss assured Lagos residents of the readiness of the commission to conduct a free, fair and transparent election. Lagos State Police Command has announced restrictions of vehicular movement on Saturday, July 12, 2025. Police, in a statement issued by its spokesperson, CSP Benjamin Udain, noted that they had deployed personnel at strategic locations for the Saturday poll. The Minister of Steel, Shuaibu Audu, says federal government loses a total of $4 billion annually in foreign exchange to imported steel products. Disclosed this during a press conference on Thursday to announce the maiden National Steel Summit coming up on July 15, 2025. Audu assured Nigerians that before the expiration of the first term of President Bola Tinubu's administration, the first section of the Ajaokuta steel plant should kickstart operation. He stated that President Tinubu has been working to ensure the utilization of the abundant raw steel materials in Nigeria and the emergence of the steel sector in the country. At the upcoming summit, the minister asserted that it will provide a platform to engage with potential investors and critical stakeholders on practical steps to revive and sustain the steel sector. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugat, on Thursday disclosed that the United States is mounting pressure on African countries to accept Venezuelan deportees. Tugat revealed that some of the Venezuelan deportees are prisoners in the U.S. The minister also stated that Nigeria may not be able to accept the Venezuelan prisoners, said that the issue of tariffs may not necessarily have to do with Nigeria participating in BRICS. He noted that the U.S. is mounting considerable pressure on African countries to accept Venezuelans to be deported from the U.S., some straight out of prisons. The governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, on Thursday at a lunch of the Abia State Security Trust Fund in Umuahia, urged citizens and residents to actively monitor security in their communities to curb the high cost of security crisis, while commending security agencies for their efforts in preventing and eliminating criminal activities in the state. Oti described the launching of the trust fund as another layout program in its holistic security outlook focused on the prevention of criminal activities. The governor lamented that insecurity creates economic and social crisis, impoverishes the population, and makes refugees of individuals and families in their homeland. Also speaking at the event, the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Kiruko Nyujocha, said President Bola Tinubu is in support of the security initiative of Governor Oti in Abia. She urged Abia residents to provide timely and credible information to security agencies to secure Abia people better. Up ahead, Nigeria Guild of Editors urges repeal of outdated media laws. Supreme Court dismisses Igodalo's appeal, affirms Okpebolo Edo governor. Stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
The Supreme Court of Nigeria on Thursday affirmed Monday Okpebolo as the governor of Edo State, dismissing the appeal filed by People's Democratic Party's governorship candidate Asu Igodalo. A 5-member panel of the Apex Court on the lead judgment delivered by Justice Lawal Garba held that the appellant failed to prove the case of overvoting, non-compliance with the Electoral Act, among other infractions which are cited as grounds to fault the electoral victory of Okpebolo. The Apex Court held that the PDP candidate failed to prove non-compliance as he merely challenged the outcome of the election in 395 of the 4,519 polling units where elections were held, and that the 19 witnesses called at the tribunal stage did not help the case of the PDP in challenging the outcome of the election. A three-member panel of the appeal court had in a unanimous decision dismissed Ighodalo's appeal, describing it as devoid of merit, after a three-member panel of Edo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal chaired by Justice Wilfred Bochi had also dismissed the petition. Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo has hailed the Supreme Court judgment of Feminim as duly elected, describing it as a landmark decision that marks the end of all legal challenges arising from the 2024 governorship election. In a statement issued on Thursday by its Chief Press Secretary Fred Itua, Okpebholo celebrated the ruling as not only a personal milestone but also a decisive moment for the entire state. Okpebholo expressed appreciation to the judiciary and the people of Edo State for their steadfast support throughout the legal battle, saying that the verdict is not merely a legal triumph but a solemn reaffirmation of a sacred mandate freely given by the people of Edo State. Assured of his commitment to inclusive and impactful governance, while renewing his vow to lead with humility, compassion, and accountability, and to remain committed to the development blueprint of the administration. The governor extended an olive branch to his political opponents and urged collaboration across party lines. The governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the September 2024 Edo State governorship election, Asue Ighodalo, has faulted the Supreme Court judgment affirming Monday Okpebholo as the governor of the state, saying the ruling does not amount to justice. In a statement on Thursday, Ighodalo described the election that brought Okpebholo to office as a coordinated and deliberate robbery and said he accepted the court's finality but disagreed with its outcome. He said he feels a deep sense of betrayal, not just by those who rigged the process, but by the very institutions who were trusted to protect democracy that turned round to trample the mandate of those who voted for competence, progress, and prosperity. Ighodalo, who came second in the poll, praised the efforts of his supporters and promised that the struggle for a better Edo will continue. He advised those in the corridors of power at the moment, though undeserved, to lead with humility and govern with conscience. Nigeria is set to become the first African country to host a UNESCO-backed media and information literacy center. Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris made this known during a meeting with members of the Nigerian Guild of Editors in Abuja, during which he affirmed the commitment of the present administration to press freedom and open collaboration with the media. Correspondent Chimezie Nzedima has the details.
The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says the federal government is committed to press freedom and that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu remains open, liberal, and supportive of media operations in Nigeria. Idris made the remarks at a meeting with members of the Nigerian Guild of Editors in Abuja, where he emphasized the crucial role of the media in nation building and reiterated that the Tinubu-led administration is media-friendly.
I want to assure you that this government is media-friendly and it will continue to be so. Don't use isolated incidences to say that there is any particular intention on the part of government to gag the press. I'm not aware of it. The president, I'm sure, is not aware of that. Never a time, again, for emphasis, I discussed with him to see that any particular media organization or individual is being harassed just because he holds views that the government may not find comfortable. I want to put that on record. It is absolutely important for all of us in exercising our role, in holding government and leaders to account. We need to know that we have to do that with utmost responsibility.
The minister described the media as a vital pillar in building a just and inclusive society, stressing that the government recognizes journalists as key partners in democratic development. In a significant development, the minister also disclosed that Nigeria is set to become the first country in Africa to host a UNESCO-backed media and information literacy center. According to him, the country has successfully passed multiple stages of accreditation process and is currently in the final phase. The formal accreditation is expected to take place in October 2025.
As a ministry, I'm being reminded that there is a modest effort that we are also making about media and information literacy. It is championed by the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. They made a proposal to make Nigeria the hosting country for the first of its kind Media and Information Literacy Center. And I'm happy to tell you that so far we have passed all the hurdles. I have been to UNESCO headquarters about 3 times myself to engage together with the desk officers here. And I'm happy to announce that UNESCO has accepted, subject to the final ratification that we intend to have in their next General Assembly in October this year, the final ratification for the designation of Nigeria as the host country for media and information literacy. No country has ever hosted that. Nigeria is going to be the first country. And what that does to us is that it's going to bring all stakeholders in the media from across the globe to bring some attention to Nigeria and to offer opportunity to our media practitioners and others to really imbibe what is called media literacy.
Members of the Nigerian Guild of Editors who were present at the meeting did not raise questions but expressed agreement with the minister's remark, signaling alignment with the government's position on the role and freedom of the press. The establishment of the Media Information Literacy Center is seen as a progressive move to further strengthen Nigeria's media ecosystem and enhance public engagement through responsible information sharing and education. In Abuja, I am Chimize Zadima for Signature TV.
The Nigerian Guild of Editors has called for the repeal and reform of outdated media laws that it says are inconsistent with Nigeria's democratic aspirations. The Guild, which made the call during a meeting with the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, in Abuja, also raised concern about overlapping laws, criminal defamation, and sections of the Cybercrime Act that they described as vague or obsolete. Again, Chimize Nzirima reports.
The Nigerian Guild of Editors listed several legal provisions it says are outdated and which no longer align with the constitutional guarantees of freedom of expression. One of the laws is the sedition provision in Section 50, subsections 1 and 2 of the Criminal Code. Although a part of the section has been nullified by the courts, the Guild insists that the remaining part should be formally removed from Nigeria's statute books.
Sedition law, by virtue of Section 50, subsection 1 and Section 51, subsection 1 and 2 of the Criminal Code, has been nullified by the Court of Appeal in 1982 in the case of Atom 1 for the state. Despite the fact that it has been nullified, but we still believe that there is need for that last section to be formally repealed.
The Guild also raised concerns over the continued existence of criminal defamation in Nigerian law. They noted that defamation is already addressed under civil law and argued that criminalizing it poses a threat to freedom of expression. Citing past court rulings, the Guild stressed that public officers must tolerate strong criticism from citizens. In addition, the editors pointed to overlapping provisions between the Penal Code and the Criminal Code. They recommended harmonizing the laws to eliminate repetition and clarify application.
We believe that criminal defamation and criminalizing freedom of expression because defamation is both civil and criminal in our laws, that anyone who feels, particularly a public officer who feels aggrieved, can as well file defamation suit, just like the Court of Appeal said, particularly Justice Olatawura in the Atowa Court case, that public officers should not feel threatened when they are being pilloried by people, even with harsh words. And so that same case on law force with the defamation law. So we have recommended too that the criminal defamation law should be expunged from our law.
The Cybercrime Act also came under review. The Guild specifically mentioned Section 24, subsections 1A and B, describing them as vague. Section 24(1) of the Cybercrime Act 2015 reads, "A person who knowingly or intentionally sends a message or other matter by means of computer system or network that A. is pornographic or B. he knows to be false for the purpose of causing a breakdown of law and order, posing a threat to life or causing such message to be sent, commits an offense." They stated that the term cyberbullying is no longer defined in law and that continued arrests based on these are without legal backing. They also noted that some parts of the section duplicate provisions already covered by other laws, such as the Obscene Publications Act. The editors further reviewed the Broadcasting Act, citing concerns over the powers of the National Broadcasting Commission. They referenced a court case between the Media Rights Agenda and the NBC, noting the need to ensure broadcasters receive fair hearing before sanctions are applied.
The cybercrimes law, which has now, particularly Section 24, which has now become so abused over time. That's the section that we feel quite offensive is that Section 24, which had been amended partially. But subsection B of that cybercrimes law too is so vague, and there's not like cyberbullying any longer. So all these arrests on cyberbullying is illegal. So we now believe that section 24, subsection 1A and B should be repealed.
In his response, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, acknowledged the issue raised. He said it is not solely within his office to adopt all recommendations, but noted that consultations are ongoing among relevant agencies.
And I assure you that much as you are doing your own by engaging other offices, I will engage with the Office of the Attorney General myself. I will also engage with government at the highest level and discuss this matter. And I also encourage you to discuss also with the National Assembly, because ultimately the issues of laws are issues that only the National Assembly can actually deal with. I won't sit down here to say all your recommendations have been accepted, because it's not within my powers to do that. But what I can tell you is that I will certainly work with this report and make sure that it gets the attention that it requires.
The meeting ended with both parties agreeing on the need for continuous dialogue. The editors are expected to follow up with legislative advocacy, while the ministry works with other arms of government to review the laws under consideration. In Abuja, I am Chimize Zedima for Signature TV.
Troops of Operation Hardin Kai have killed 24 Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorists in a renewed offensive into enclaves across various locations within the Northeast Theater of Operations. The coordinated operations took place between 4th and 9th July in Sabinsa Forest, Timbuktu Triangle, the Mandara Mountains, and other known locations. This resulted in the recovery of several arms, ammunition, logistics, and other fighting equipment. Spokesperson of Operation Adinkai, Captain Ruben Kuvangia, who gave details of operations in a statement, revealed that the troops also recovered motorcycles, bicycles, food condiments, footwear, and terrorist uniforms. He said that the operations, which were intelligence-driven and guided by intelligence, were conducted by the combined troops of the Air Force component, the Civilian Joint Task Force, and the Nigerian Army. Statement explained that the neutralization of the 24 insurgents underscores the determination, collaboration, and considered efforts by the troops to ensure that terrorists are placed on the back foot, thereby creating a conducive environment for socio-economic activities to thrive in the Northeast region. The National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA, has announced plans to convene the 7th National Council on AIDS, which will focus on Nigeria's HIV response in the context of evolving global AIDS dynamics. A statement signed by the chairman of the planning committee, Daniel Ndukwe, on Thursday, said the event, to be held in Lagos, with support from the Lagos State Agency for the Control of AIDS, as a theme, advancing national HIV sustainability agenda and a changing global policy on AIDS. Ndukwe said the meeting is designed to bring together representatives from government ministries, civil society, development partners, and affected communities, with discussions focusing on ensuring the long-term sustainability of HIV prevention, care, and treatment programs nationwide. The Director General of NACA and Chairman of the Council, Dr. Temitope Ilori, highlighted the importance of sustaining HIV response efforts in the face of shifting donor priorities. She said that Nigeria must take bold steps to ensure that HIV prevention, treatment, and support remain accessible and resilient. The National Council on AIDS, established under the NACA Act of 2006, functions as Nigeria's apex coordination body for multi-sectoral HIV response, and the upcoming 7th session aims to review past progress and chart a strategic direction for future HIV interventions. The Nigerian Ports Authority (NPA) has deployed its state-of-the-art marine craft to berth the first wholly Nigerian-owned container vessel by the International Maritime Organization, Christian MV Ocean Dragon, with capacity of 349 20-foot equivalent units, gives a boost to concerted investment drive geared towards reaping the cost and time-saving benefits of short-sea shipping by applying in-country maritime trade routes across Nigeria. The vessel is scheduled to operate across West Africa and beyond, servicing ports in Nigeria, Benin Republic, Togo, Ghana, Cameroon, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, Egypt, and South Africa, among other countries. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Ports Authority, Abubakar Dansoho, said the development is a testament to the commitment of the Nigerian government to deepen the maximize the potential of the marine and blue economy. And next is business news.
Electricity distribution companies across Nigeria received over 254,000 customer complaints in the first quarter of 2025, with faulty meters, billing errors, and poor service topping the list, according to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. In its latest quarterly report, NERC said a total of 254,404 complaints were recorded between January and March, a 7.72% drop from the previous quarter's 275,681 complaints. Metering issues accounted for the highest share at 42.84%, followed by billing disputes and service interruptions. Port Harcourt Disco received the highest number of complaints at 57,843, representing nearly a quarter of the national total. At the other end, Yola Disco recorded the fewest with just 2,495 complaints. Eko, Ibadan and Ikeja Disco also recorded high complaint volumes, while Abuja Disco saw a sharp drop from 23,963 in the previous quarter to 6,225, a 74% decline, the steepest nationwide. Despite the slight improvement in the overall numbers, NERC noted that metering and billing remain persistent challenges in the power sector. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has pledged continued support for the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, as it implements ongoing tax reforms, commending the agency for significant strides in revenue administration. Speaking during the opening of the IMF-supported headquarters mission at the Revenue House in Abuja on Wednesday, senior economist at the IMF Fiscal Affairs Department, Paulo Paz, praised the FIRS for its performance under the leadership of Chairman Zak Adedeji. Paz said the IMF is exploring further areas of collaboration, especially in light of recently enacted tax laws that are expected to have a significant impact on Nigeria's fiscal framework. In a statement by the Special Advisor on Media to the FIRS Chairman, Dare Adekambi, Paz was quoted as reaffirming the IMF's commitment to strengthening Nigeria's revenue systems. Welcoming the IMF team, Adedeji, represented by his Chief of Staff, Tayo Kolosho, expressed appreciation for the fund's long-standing commitment, particularly in compliance and portfolio management. He added that the partnership would continue as the FIRS transition into the Nigerian Revenue Service in 2026. Oil producers in Nigeria have invested $8 billion in drilling infrastructure over the past 3 years, boosting the country's rig count to 46 as of July 2025, according to the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. The Commission's Chief Executive, Benga Komolafe, disclosed this during a media workshop in Abuja on Wednesday, noting that the investment made between 2022 and 2025 financed the drilling of 236 well bores and significantly expanded production capacity. He said Nigeria's rig count rose sharply from 8 in 2021 to 31 in January 2025 and further climbed to 46 by mid-year, marking a 475% increase over 4 years and a 48% rise within the first 7 months of 2025. Komalafe attributed the growth to the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act in 2021 and the Commission's ongoing push to revamp up daily hydrocarbon output. This is Business News in Global News. I am Chimisi Zedima.
Still to come, United Nations denounces U.S. sanctions on U.S. expert on Palestinians. U.S. Rubio meets Japan FM Iwaya, Philippines FM Lazaro in Malaysia. These and more after the break.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Human rights defenders rallied on Thursday to support a top UN expert on Palestinian rights after the United States imposed sanctions on her over what it said was unfair criticism of Israel. Talent lawyer Francesca Albanese serves as Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the occupied Palestinian territories, one of dozens of experts appointed by the 47-member UN Human Rights Council to report on specific global issues. She has long criticized Israeli treatment of the Palestinians and this month published a report accusing over 60 companies, including some U.S. firms, of supporting Israeli settlements in the West Bank and military actions in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that Albanese will be added to the U.S. sanctions list for work, which had prompted what he described as illegitimate prosecutions of Israelis at the International Criminal Court.
Francesca Albanese, and I can say to you that the imposition of sanctions on special rapporteurs is a dangerous precedent. Francesca Albanese, like all other special UN human rights rapporteurs, is an independent human rights expert appointed by the UN Human Rights Council and reporting to the UN Human Rights Council. Special rapporteurs do not report to the Secretary General. He has no authority over them or their work. That being said, member states are perfectly entitled to their views and to disagree with reports by special rapporteurs, but we encourage them to engage with the UN's human rights architecture. The use of unilateral sanctions against special rapporteurs or any other UN expert or official is unacceptable.
Does the Secretary General support Francesca Albanese on a personal level?
His point is that targeted unilateral sanctions against UN officials, against UN experts, which Ms. Albanese is, are just unacceptable.
And has the Secretary General sent?
Ukraine has received all necessary political signals for U.S. military aid to resume. President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Thursday, after what he described as constructive talks with U.S. President Donald Trump. Zelensky told a news conference in Rome that Ukraine had a timetable and details of upcoming weapon supplies. He also praised the participation of U.S. representatives in a meeting of countries supporting Ukraine.
It is important that after very constructive and very positive talks with U.S. President Donald Trump, we have all the necessary political signals about the resumption of aid supplies. Now at the team level we are working to ensure that everything reaches Ukraine on time. And today there was such a moment. You yourself mentioned the American side. I think this is a signal from President Trump, the presence of General Keith Kellogg, Special Ukraine Envoy, and U.S. Senators. This is a positive signal. I am very happy with this signal. This is real unity. I am looking forward to our meeting with our American colleagues on sanctions. I think we are very close. We expect a decision today, it sounded like, regarding the 18th package. We understand why there is a pause, and we understand that the pause will be lifted. At least Europe is taking on these obligations. Changes will be made to the ambassador to the U.S. I am grateful to Oksana Markarova, current Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S. If I decide, and it will be in the near future, who is to represent Ukraine in the United States of America, that is, our key ambassador, if I decide it, will be Defense Minister Rustem Umerov. This will certainly affect serious reshuffles in the Ukrainian government. We worked very substantively today with the issue of financing in detail. Financing for drones, primarily interceptor drones and everything else needed to intercept Russian strikes and everything needed for our long-range capabilities. We discussed with partners the possibility of purchasing in Europe and in the United States of America, primarily the necessary packages with appropriate weapons. We have given details about this package to our friends. We hope for support. In particular, these are air defense systems and missiles for Patriots, Patriot systems and other systems, also artillery and other weapons that can strengthen the Ukrainian army.
Zelensky said Ukraine was engaged in a dialogue with the United States about acquiring the Patriot missile interceptor systems it has been requesting to protect against air attacks on its cities. Zelensky said Germany agreed to buy 2 Patriot systems for Ukraine and Norway agreed to pay for 1. He added that Ukraine needed 10 Patriot systems and his team was working on finding financing. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Japan's Foreign Minister Takeshi Iyawa and the Philippines Secretary of Foreign Affairs Teresa Lazaro on the sidelines of an ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur on Thursday. Rubio met counterparts in Southeast Asia on Thursday during his first visit to the region since taking office, reassuring them it is a priority for Washington despite President Donald Trump's tariffs. He stressed to ASEAN that the Indo-Pacific was a focal point of U.S. foreign policy in an effort to reassure the bloc despite President Donald Trump's tariffs.
The Indo-Pacific, the region, remains a focal point of U.S. foreign policy. When I hear in the news that perhaps the United States or the world might be distracted by events in other parts of the planet, I would say distraction is impossible, because it is our view, our strong view, and a reality that this century and the story of the next 50 years will largely be written here, in this region, in this part of the world. We've been engaged for a very long time, and we have strong partnerships we have no intention of abandoning, but rather strengthening and building upon. The United States is a committed partner to ASEAN. It's central to the regional architecture. It shapes its dynamics. In fact, ASEAN is the preeminent mechanism by which we engage with a region that we do not consider to be the periphery of any nation state. We consider it to be sovereign, independent states with whom we have long-standing relationships and partnerships. And these are relationships and partnerships that we intend to continue to build on without seeking the approval or the permission of any other actor in the region or the world.
Washington's top diplomat joined foreign ministers of a 10-member association of Southeast Asian nations in Kuala Lumpur at a meeting that included Australia, China, European Union, Japan, Russia, South Korea, and others. The visit is part of an effort to renew U.S. focus on the Indo-Pacific and look beyond conflicts in the Middle East and Europe that has consumed much of the Trump administration's attention. That's the news this hour. I am Barry Kumo Ado. Thank you very much for joining us and saying stay with us, as up next is Signature Morning.